After 8 years with Landon Hayes, I got pregnant. I tentatively asked if he would marry me. His eyes were gentle, but his tone was mocking. Be good, Rhea. Don't be ridiculous. You should know a housekeeper's daughter could never marry into the Hayes family. A few days later, he publicly announced his engagement to a DC socialite who used to bully me. When I left, he didn't try to stop me. He just said coolly, "Are you sure about this? If you walk out that door today and regret it later, I won't take you back." But 2 months later, he was the one filled with regret. On the day of my wedding, he crashed the ceremony with his men, demanding furiously, "Rhea, how dare you marry someone else while you're carrying my child?" My mother was the Hayes family's housekeeper. I grew up as Landon Hayes' shadow. Because of the vast difference in our stations, I never dared to dream of anything more. But when I was 17, under the cherry blossom trees, Landon held me gently and kissed me, and I foolishly fell for him completely. After my 18th birthday, we crossed the line in his bedroom. When his mother knocked on the door to bring him his nightly glass of milk, Landon deliberately pressed down harder. He whispered playfully in my ear, "If you don't want to get caught, you'd better keep it down." Landon's mother was obsessed with social standing. If she discovered what was going on between us, I couldn't imagine the storm she would unleash. I was terrified, but the pleasure was overwhelming. So, I bit down hard on Landon's shoulder. 8 years have passed. The bite mark is still on his shoulder. And I'm still a secret. I don't even have the title of Landon's girlfriend. When people ask about me, he just says, "She's like a little sister to me." I knew perfectly well he would never marry me. So, my plan was to pack my bags and disappear the day he announced his strategic marriage. But now, I was pregnant. I had to try, just once, for the baby inside me. That night, Landon came home, threw back the covers, and woke me up. Worried about the baby, I tried to refuse him. But as soon as I pushed him away, his brow furrowed. "Rhea, I don't like it when you say no to me." In bed, he was always domineering and controlling. Considering what I had to ask him, I eventually dropped my hands and let him have his way. Midway through, he noticed my hand covering my lower abdomen. His own large hand covered mine, and he pressed gently, his voice husky. "Did I hurt you?" My voice was strained. "Yeah, a little." He kissed my earlobe. "I'll be gentler." And he did slow down. These rare moments of tenderness always made me feel like he cared about me, too. Afterward, he leaned back against the headboard and reached for a cigarette. Seeing he was in a good mood, I seized the opportunity and asked cautiously, "Landon, if we had a child, would you consider marrying me?" His fingers, holding the cigarette, toyed with the ends of my hair. He looked at me with those gentle eyes. "If you're pregnant, we'll keep it." That sentence ignited a spark of hope in my heart. But in the next second, he mercilessly plunged me into hell. "My child must have the Hayes name, but marrying you is impossible." His tone was mild, but every word dripped with scorn. "Rhea, you should know that a housekeeper's daughter has no place in the Hayes family." The answer wasn't a surprise. But my heart still ached uncontrollably. I fought back tears, took a deep breath, and forced out the words, "I'm not pregnant. I was just kidding." He stroked my hair like he was soothing a misbehaving pet. "Rhea, be a good girl. Don't be greedy. Anything you want, except for the title of Mrs. Hayes, I can give you." But I understood then that I would never get what I truly wanted. I could never have him. And I couldn't keep the baby. I couldn't let my child be born without a legal father. After that night, Landon didn't come back for several days. It was only when the news of his engagement to Savannah broke that I realized he'd been spending those days with her, looking at wedding venues and dresses. In the photos a friend sent me, Savannah was smiling and chatting animatedly. And Landon, looking down at her and listening intently, had a look of affection on his face. My breath caught in my throat. Almost without thinking, I rushed to the Hayes Corporation building. I had to ask Landon, even if he had to marry for business, out of all the women in the world, why did it have to be Savannah? Unlike my frantic state, Landon was perfectly calm. It was arranged by our parents. Her family background, education, and connections are all excellent. I had no reason to refuse. Tears welled in my eyes, my voice trembling. Landon, have you forgotten what Savannah did to me? Even today, I can still remember her beautiful face twisted in a hideous sneer as she shoved my head into a sink when I was 16. Back then, even though Landon and I were just a rich kid and his tag along, I was the only girl who could get close to him. So, after Savannah was rejected by Landon multiple times, she took her anger out on me. She and her friends cornered me in a bathroom stall. They cut my hair, tore at my clothes to take pictures, and threatened me viciously. If you ever try to seduce Landon again, I'll make sure these photos are plastered all over the internet. That day, when I showed up in front of Landon with my butchered hair, his face darkened instantly. Who did this? My tears fell one after another as I sobbed, Landon, I don't want to walk to and from school with you anymore. Landon was always smart. He put the pieces together immediately. He wrapped his arms around me, patting my back gently. Don't be afraid, Rhea. I'm here. About 2 weeks later, Landon told me all the photos had been destroyed. Savannah had dropped out of school and was grounded by her parents, forbidden from going anywhere. Later, I heard she developed depression from being confined and was sent abroad for school and treatment. Landon had protected me so well over the years that I had long since put the incident behind me. But I never imagined Savannah would re-enter my life in this way. Before me now stood a man who was no longer the righteous boy who had stood up for me. He told me with complete composure, Savannah made a mistake back then, but she's already been punished for it. She was young and didn't know any better. She's grown a lot over the years, realized her mistake, and has told me many times how sorry she is about what she did to you. Rhea, it's been so many years. You don't need to keep holding on to the past. It's time to move on. In that moment, I started to doubt if Landon had ever had any real feelings for me at all. Otherwise, how could he say something so cruel? My heart clenched in a painful spasm, and I couldn't stop my body from trembling. He noticed my state and came forward to hold me, sighing in resignation. Rhea, my marriage to Savannah is just a business arrangement. There are no feelings involved. You don't need to worry about her. Just stay by my side and be good. I can promise you she won't ever hurt you again. I understood what he was saying. He wanted me to be his mistress. I pushed him away with a bitter smile, my voice choked. Landon, I'm not that pathetic. His expression darkened abruptly. What do you mean by that? I just felt utterly exhausted. Let's break up. Perhaps he never expected me to be the one to end it. Landon's eyes stared at me, cold and hard. After a long moment, a harsh laugh escaped him. You're just some fling I can't take out in public. We were never even together. What is there to break up? He really knew how to inflict the most pain. Every word was a razor blade, slicing me to ribbons until I could barely breathe. I swallowed hard, my throat raw, and whispered weakly, then let's just leave it at that. Let it end here. I didn't care what he thought of me anymore. And I would never love him again. I turned and walked away. As I reached the door, his cold voice came from behind me. Rhea, are you really sure about this? If you walk out that door today and regret it later, I won't take you back. I didn't look back. I didn't stop. It took me 2 weeks to pull myself out of the depths of my heartbreak. Then, I went to the hospital for an abortion. But in a cruel twist of fate, the doctor told me that due to my physical condition, if I had an abortion, it would be very difficult for me to ever get pregnant again. I've always loved children, so after much consideration, I chose to keep the baby. Landon said his child had to be a Hayes. I was afraid he'd try to take the baby from me if he ever found out. To be absolutely safe, I decided to find someone to marry, to provide cover for me and my child. I was still wondering where I could find a trustworthy man willing to be a father to my child when Caleb showed up at my door. Caleb. A guy who was a few years behind me in college. He was stunningly handsome, with 8-pack abs and a chiseled core. He was the star of the basketball team, a regular on the campus crush page, and incredibly popular. He pursued me for a long time. But back then, I only had eyes for Landon and didn't see anyone else, so I turned him down. I was about to ask how he knew about my situation when a few texts popped up on my phone. It was my bestie. "Girl, did you see Caleb? He's been hung up on you all these years. Since you're in a pinch, I figured he'd be perfect, so I let him know what's up. Don't be a fool and turn him down again. Younger guys are the best, they have the energy and they'll actually use it on you." It was precisely because he liked me that I didn't want to use him. "Are you sure about this? You're only 24. Marrying me means giving up the whole world out there. Is it worth it?" He said with conviction, "It's not about what's worth it. I'd do anything for you, willingly." I still hesitated. "And could you love my baby as if it were your own?" He raised an eyebrow slightly and pulled a document out of his backpack, handing it to me. "Rhea, I already got a vasectomy. Your child will be the only child I ever have in this life." He had thought of everything. It was incredibly thoughtful. I really couldn't find a reason to say no anymore. "Okay, then. Let's get married." Caleb's eyes instantly lit up, and he exclaimed, "Really? Thank you." I almost laughed. "You're the one helping me. Why are you thanking me?" He scratched his head with an embarrassed smile. "You're giving me the chance to take care of you. Of course I have to say thank you." He always kept his hair in a buzz cut, which made his features look even sharper. When he got shy, he was actually kind of cute. I couldn't help but smile. Our parents quickly set a wedding date. As luck would have it, it was the same day as Landon and Savannah's wedding. To think that just over a month ago, I was fantasizing about marrying Landon. Now, we were indeed getting married on the same day, but as the groom and bride to other people. Life is truly unpredictable. But I didn't feel sad anymore. Landon and I were from different worlds. It was only natural that we go our separate ways. After my wedding dress fitting, Caleb and I went to an exclusive restaurant for dinner. On my way to the restroom, I unexpectedly ran into Savannah. Seeing her beautiful but malicious face, I instinctively took a step back. But Savannah just smiled and held up her hand, showing off the diamond ring on her finger. "Rhea, you clung to Landon for over a decade, and in the end, I'm the one he's marrying. You're so pathetic. Such a loser." I didn't want to argue with her. It was pointless. I tried to walk around her. But she blocked my path. "What's the rush? Shouldn't old friends catch up?" I was truly disgusted by her. "Can you please stay away from me?" She laughed. "Sure. After you do me a little favor." As she spoke, she suddenly grabbed my hand and slapped her own face with it. Then, she collapsed to the ground and started crying pitifully. "Rhea, I know I was wrong back then. You can hit me, you can yell at me, I deserve it." She used to be openly vicious, now she had learned how to act. I was completely stunned by her performance. Just then, Landon rushed over from behind me, helped Savannah up, and frowned. "What's going on?" Savannah was a mess of tears and snot. "I just ran into Rhea and wanted to apologize for what happened back then, but she suddenly started hitting me." Landon's head snapped up, his cold gaze fixed on me. "Even if Savannah bullied you, she's already been punished. Rhea, do you have to be so aggressive?" He frowned, ordering me imperiously, "Apologize to Savannah. Now." My chest tightened with anger. She staged the whole thing. It has nothing to do with me, and I'm not apologizing. I tried to leave, but Landon grabbed my wrist and yanked me back. "Rhea." My back slammed against the wall, and the pain brought tears to my eyes. I hissed softly. I looked up and saw a triumphant, provocative smirk on Savannah's lips. Then my eyes met Landon's cold, dark ones, and I felt a wave of injustice wash over me. I repeated through gritted teeth, I did nothing wrong. I'm not apologizing. I said, you're not leaving until you apologize, he said, his face grim, reaching for me again. Suddenly, an arm shot out between us, separating me from Landon. Mr. Hayes, a little class goes a long way. I suggest you find some. And don't you dare touch my girlfriend, or you'll regret it. Landon stared at Caleb, who was now standing in front of me, and his brow tightened. His voice was icy as he enunciated each word, girlfriend? Caleb didn't respond. Landon's gaze shifted back to me, his eyes filled with a terrifying ferocity I had never seen before. Rhea, it's only been a few days and you've already found a replacement. Are you that desperate? Can't you live without a man? His voice was cruel and clear. If you love being used by men so much, you should have told me. I have a few buddies who are very interested in you. I can have them all keep you company. Landon relentlessly hurled the most vicious insults at me. I was shaking with rage. Landon, you're a bastard. Caleb could no longer hold back and threw a punch at him. With a mouth that foul, why don't you just go die? The two of them started fighting. In the end, neither came out on top. Both had bruised faces. I anxiously checked Caleb's injuries. Does it hurt? Your cheekbone is already turning purple. How are we going to have the wedding in a few days? Caleb shook his head. It doesn't hurt. He looked at me apologetically. Rhea, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have gotten myself hurt right before the wedding. I'll put some cream on it tonight and try to heal up before Saturday. It's not your fault, I said, turning to glare at Landon. If anyone's to blame, it's him. Landon happened to be looking at me, his dark eyes filled with disbelief. He demanded sharply, "You're marrying Caleb?" I had no patience for him now. So what if I am? What's it to you? Caleb chimed in, "Yeah, Mr. Hayes, you should worry about your own mouth and your little two-faced fiancé." At that, Savannah put on her victim face again, clinging to Landon's arm. Landon, don't listen to him, I'm not two-faced. Landon ignored Savannah but didn't push her hand away. His piercing gaze swept over Caleb and me. After a moment, a contemptuous smirk twisted his lips. Whether you two get married or not really has nothing to do with me. Besides, I was with Rhea for 8 years. I got tired of her a long time ago. Caleb, since you love sloppy seconds so much, she's all yours. That one sentence reignited Caleb's fury. Afraid things would get out of hand, I quickly stopped Caleb before he could resort to violence again. Don't. Caleb clenched his jaw but obediently took a step back. I turned and slapped Landon hard across the face. Landon, I truly regret ever loving you. His head snapped to the side from the force of the blow, his expression turning even colder as he mocked me mercilessly. Weren't you the one who came to me in lingerie, trying to please me? Weren't you the one who stayed with me all these years without any title or recognition? Rhea, you chose to be pathetic. Who can you blame but yourself? Our past moments of intimacy were now being used as evidence against me. I felt utterly humiliated. Swallowing past the lump in my throat, I said hoarsely, "Yes, I was pathetic in the past, but not anymore. Landon, I don't love you. From now on, we go our separate ways." With that, I ignored Landon's dark, smoldering glare and took Caleb's hand, leading him away. Back in our private dining room, the tears I had been holding back finally fell. I thought Landon and I could have had an amicable split. I never imagined he would humiliate me like that in public. Even though I had no expectations of him anymore, it still felt degrading and unfair. Caleb gently wiped my tears. "Don't cry, Rhea. Landon was never a good guy to begin with. You've escaped a toxic situation. From now on, it's all smooth sailing. You should be happy." I thought for a moment and felt I needed to be clear with Caleb. I was with Landon for 8 years. We did everything a couple does, and then some. Caleb, are you really sure you don't mind? If you do, then the wedding is. Before I could say off, he cut me off urgently. I don't mind. He took my hand, his words sincere. It's not your fault you dated a scumbag. You just made a bad judgment call. Let the past be the past. From now on, the three of us will build a happy life together. I really had been blind. To think I once believed Landon was a man of feeling and honor, to have fallen so deeply for him. Only today did I finally see his true colors. He was vile and extreme, completely unworthy of my love. Looking back, while there were sweet moments over the past 8 years, it was also exhausting. With Landon, I had to be obedient, submissive, and always put his feelings first. I couldn't be jealous or cause him any trouble. If he was unhappy, I had to rack my brain to cheer him up. If he ignored me, I would be too upset to sleep. I was like an accessory, all my emotions tied to him. In contrast, being with Caleb was so much easier. I didn't have to guess what Caleb was thinking or cater to his preferences. He didn't need me to coddle him. In fact, he never seemed to have a temper around me. He was so good to me. When he found out I couldn't stand the smell of smoke, he quit on the spot. To take good care of me and the baby, he spent his days reading parenting books and scouring Pinterest for parenting hacks, filling up notebooks with notes. He even stopped going out with his friends, rushing home after work to be with me. After more than a month together, I began to think that maybe spending my life with Caleb would be a wonderful choice. I squeezed his hand and said sincerely, Caleb, even though what I feel for you isn't love yet, just a strong affection. After we're married, I will work on building a real relationship with you. Are you willing to walk this path with me? The curve of his lips softened, his gaze intense as he looked at me. I am, he said softly. This life, the next life, and the one after that, I'll always be with you. I laughed through my tears. In the private lounge of the club, his friends were joking around. Only Landon sat silently in the corner, downing glass after glass of liquor, a cold aura radiating from him. He had been in this sullen mood ever since he found out a few days ago that Rhea was marrying Caleb. No, to be precise, his mood hadn't been good since the day Rhea proposed they break up. He considered himself to have been quite good to Rhea. Aside from an official title, he had given her almost everything he could. Houses, cars, bags, jewelry, she lacked nothing. His first love, first kiss, first time, all belonged to her. After all these years, she was the only woman by his side. He ignored all the women who threw themselves at him. Even at business dinners, the most he would do was have a drink with another woman he never even feigned interest. In their circle of the rich and powerful, a man like him was a rarity. Which of those rich kids wasn't juggling a dozen girls, constantly changing partners? But Rhea was still not satisfied. She even dared to dream of marrying him. With her background, how could she ever step into the Hayes family home? People in their social class only engaged in power alliances. They would never stoop to charity cases. He did have feelings for Rhea. But those feelings weren't strong enough to make him defy his family. Savannah had been pushed on him by his grandfather. At first, he was hesitant. After all, Savannah had bullied Rhea in the past. But when he saw Savannah again, he noticed she had changed a lot. She was no longer the arrogant, overbearing person she used to be. She seemed poised, elegant, and gentle. She repeatedly apologized for what she had done. She also mentioned she had another man in her life and that this marriage was something she was forced into. She said if Landon agreed to marry her, they could each do their own thing and not interfere in each other's lives. They were in a similar predicament and held the same views on marriage. Marrying an ally was better than marrying someone who would meddle in his affairs. So, Landon had agreed. At the time, he thought Rhea would understand his choice. After all, she had always been so obedient and sensible, always putting his interests first. He never imagined she would suggest breaking up. It was the first time she had ever defied him. He was furious and hurt, so he lashed out, saying the cruelest things he could think of. Rhea left without a moment's hesitation. He felt as if a piece of his heart had been ripped out, leaving him empty and lost. Waking up in the middle of the night, reaching for a familiar body that wasn't there, he felt a profound loneliness. He wanted Rhea to come back. But he would never say it out loud, only hold it in his heart. Because the proud, arrogant Landon Hayes had never bowed his head to anyone in his life. How could he possibly lower himself to ask a woman for reconciliation? Unless Rhea came back on her own. Otherwise, this was how it had to be. 3 days ago at the restaurant, Landon hadn't believed a word of Savannah's accusations against Rhea. He knew Rhea too well. She was simple and kind, with no cunning bone in her body. She would never hit and yell at Savannah. Therefore, Savannah had to be lying. He immediately felt a sense of disgust towards Savannah. He thought she had changed, but it was all an act. At her core, she was still that spoiled, vicious brat. But he still chose to defend Savannah. Because he was furious that Rhea had left so decisively. He hated that she had so easily let go of their relationship. He deliberately made things difficult for her, demanding she apologize. He thought, if Rhea had just said one comforting word to him, just one, he would have immediately pulled her into his arms, told her he believed her, and that he still wanted her. But she didn't. And what was worse? She was getting married. She said she didn't love him anymore. His anger boiled over, and he lashed out again, each word a knife twisting in her heart. He thought, if she was going to make him miserable, then she could be miserable too. But seeing her look of humiliation, on the verge of tears, brought him no satisfaction. Instead, he felt a suffocating tightness in his chest. The clock struck 4 a.m. Landon tilted his head back and finished the last of his drink. He was about to call the waiter for more. One of his friends tried to stop him. "Landon, man, you have a wedding this morning. Stop drinking. If you get wasted, how are you going to get married?" The mention of the wedding only made Landon more irritable. The thought of Rhea marrying someone else today felt like a fire consuming him from the inside, so intense he could barely breathe. His closest friend, Chris, sighed and advised him, "If you really can't let Rhea go, you still have a few hours. Go get her back. Otherwise, once she's actually married, it'll be too late." Though he was a mess inside, his pride made him say, "She can marry whoever she wants. Does she really think I can't live without her?" Chris was exasperated with him. "Dude, can you stop being so stubborn? You think I don't know how much you care about Rhea?" Then he dropped a bombshell. "This girl I'm seeing said she saw Rhea at the OB/GYN yesterday." Landon froze. Chris continued, "Rhea's probably pregnant. Not sure how far along. You can have someone check. If she got pregnant before you broke up, then it's definitely yours." Landon's mind flashed back to their last night together. Rhea asking him if he would marry her if she were pregnant. Could it be that she already knew she was pregnant then, and that was why she was testing him? Landon couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. It was a mix of excitement, anxiety, and a simmering anger. Of course, he wanted to have a child with Rhea. But if it really was his child, how dare she let it call another man dad? He dialed his assistant's number and said in a low voice, "Get me Rhea's recent medical records. Now." The assistant wanted to cry. In the middle of the night, was he being treated like a pack mule? 11 a.m. In the hotel's bridal suite, I stood in front of the mirror in my wedding dress. Thankfully, I'm thin, so at 3.5 months pregnant, it wasn't noticeable and didn't affect how the dress looked at all. The slight bump on my abdomen just looked like I'd had a big lunch. Relieved, I was about to sit down and rest. Suddenly, the door was pushed open from the outside. I thought it was Caleb and turned with a smile. "You're here." But when I saw who it was, I froze. I couldn't understand why Landon, who was also supposed to be getting married today, was here. I frowned, asking defensively, "What are you doing here?" His face was dark as he advanced on me, step by step. I instinctively sensed danger and backed away, warning him, "Don't come any closer, or I'll scream for help." He completely ignored me, grabbing my left wrist and demanding in an icy voice, "Rhea, how dare you marry someone else while you're carrying my child?" My heart skipped a beat. I denied it automatically. You're mistaken, I'm not pregnant. He just sneered. You dare let my child call Caleb Dad, and I dare to end Caleb's life. Do you believe me? I was terrified by his madness. Landon, are you insane? Yes, I am insane. He dragged me towards the door. You're coming with me today. I won't let you marry Caleb. Let go of me. I was frantic, struggling desperately. But his grip was too tight, I couldn't break free. In my panic, my right hand found a vase. Almost without thinking, I swung it at Landon's head. After a loud crash, blood began to pour from his head. He staggered, dizzy from the blow, his body swaying uncontrollably as his grip on my wrist loosened. I quickly scrambled away. Landon turned to look at me, his face a mask of disbelief, his voice trembling. Rhea, you hit me? The blood flowed faster, staining half his face and making him look terrifying. I just said angrily, who told you to come here and cause a scene? Even if you dropped dead right here, you'd have brought it on yourself. A look of sorrow crossed his face, almost as if he were wounded emotionally. You want me to die? Do you hate me that much? I don't hate you, I said, looking at him coldly. Hate comes from love. Right now, you're no different from a stranger to me. His expression darkened, his voice hoarse. Rhea, how did we end up like this? I was in no mood to discuss these pointless questions with him. I started towards the door. But when I opened it, I was blocked by 4 bodyguards in black suits. My heart sank. I turned back to glare at Landon in disbelief. Are you trying to kidnap me? That's illegal. He gave a self-deprecating, bitter smile. Sorry, but this is the only way I can keep you. He nodded at the bodyguards. Take Miss Rhea away. Now. The bodyguards nodded. Yes, sir. In the end, Landon couldn't take me away. Caleb and his groomsmen arrived just in time. The scene was chaotic. The bodyguards and the groomsmen were in a full-blown brawl. It was a stalemate. The fight only stopped because Landon, having lost too much blood, passed out. Worried something serious might happen to him, the bodyguards had no choice but to stop and rush him to the hospital. Caleb anxiously spun me around, only relaxing after confirming I wasn't hurt. He took my hand, his voice full of apology. Rhea, I'm so sorry. I was outside greeting guests and had no idea what was happening in here. It's not your fault. Who could have predicted Landon would suddenly go crazy, abandoning his own wedding to crash mine? Without Landon as an obstacle, the rest of the wedding went very smoothly. After a full day of activities, I collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted, when we got home that night. Caleb volunteered, Rhea, how about I give you a foot rub to help you relax? You know how to give a foot rub? I was genuinely surprised. I took a class specifically to learn. Caleb was indeed a good student, his technique was excellent. It was so comfortable that I actually dozed off. When I opened my eyes again, an hour had passed. Caleb was tidying up the room. The coffee table and bookshelves, which I had left in a mess, were now neat and clean. I couldn't help but sigh, you're so capable. He smiled. From now on, your job is to rest. The chores can be left to the housekeepers and me. Caleb had hired 4 housekeepers to take care of me. I thought it was overkill. Is that really necessary? It's such a waste of money. We're both able-bodied. We can do a lot of things ourselves, and maybe just hire a part-time cleaner to help out. But Caleb insisted. It's absolutely necessary. You're pregnant and you need to rest as much as possible. You can't overexert yourself. Don't worry about the money. The more you spend, the more motivated I am to earn it. Caleb was extremely competent at his job. He had co-founded a gaming company with friends back in college. The games they released were all quite popular and brought in significant revenue. In terms of income, he was already miles ahead of his peers. Since he was so insistent, I didn't argue further. I took the glass of milk he handed me, drank it, and went to bed. I wasn't surprised when Landon showed up again. The moment I saw him, I immediately pulled up the dialer on my phone and typed 911. I warned him, Landon, if you try to kidnap me again, I will call the police. When that happens, this whole absurd mess will be all over the news. I hear your father is at a critical point in his career. If you don't want him to be affected by your actions, then don't mess with me. Whether it was because of his injuries or my threat, his face was unusually pale, and his voice was raspy. Rhea, I don't want to do anything to you. I just want you to come back to me. I found that ironic. Come back to be your dirty little secret? No. He denied. My wedding with Savannah is off. I'm not marrying her, and I won't make you the other woman. I had heard. The wedding between the Hayes and their counterparts was a grand affair, with many prominent families invited. As a result, the news of Landon's escape from his own wedding had spread like wildfire, becoming the talk of the town. Savannah was utterly humiliated, a public laughingstock. Lately, she hadn't even dared to leave her house, terrified of being mocked to her face. But what did any of that have to do with me? I had long since stopped caring about him and Savannah. Landon continued, rambling on. Rhea, if you just come back to me, I'll work hard to convince my grandfather and my mother to let me marry you. If I can't convince them, then I won't marry anyone else. I'll spend the rest of my life with just you. If I had heard those words 2 months ago, I would have been ecstatic. But a promise that comes too late is meaningless. Landon, I don't love you anymore, and I don't want to marry you. From now on, marry whoever you want. You don't need to report to me. Pain filled his eyes, but he still clung to a sliver of hope. You were willing to keep our child. Isn't that because you still have feelings for me? His gaze fell on my slightly protruding belly, and he pleaded, Rhea, come home with me. I'll take care of you and our child from now on. We'll be a happy family. I knew he must have investigated my pregnancy timeline to be so certain the child was his. Since that was the case, there was no point in denying it anymore. I decided to lay it all out. Landon, stop being so delusional. The reason I'm keeping this baby has nothing to do with you. The doctor said my body is weak, and this might be my only chance to be a mother. So, even if this baby wasn't yours, even if it belonged to another man, I would have chosen to keep it. The corners of his eyes turned red, a mist forming in them as he roared in self-deception, I don't believe you. We've known each other for 18 years and we're together for 8. How could you not love me anymore? Together? I scoffed. When were we ever together? Didn't you say I was just some fling you couldn't take out in public? I threw his own words back at him. His face instantly turned ashen, his voice trembling. I didn't mean that. I was just angry you broke up with me, so I said things I didn't mean. Rhea, you're the only woman I've ever loved. I was serious about you. It was never just a game. I sneered. Landon, that's not how you love someone. All those years I stayed by your side without a title, I was miserable. But because I loved you, I was always obedient, tolerated your temper tantrums, and humbled myself to soothe you countless times. But now I don't love you anymore, so what are you? Stop coming to find me. I don't want to see you again. I tried to leave, but he wrapped his arms around me from behind. Rhea, don't go. He held me tightly, his voice choked with a sob. I can change. Whatever you're not happy with, I'll change it all. I promise I'll be so good to you from now on. Please don't ignore me, okay? Let go. I snapped, raising my voice. You don't need to change, because I don't want your good, understand? He refused to let go, his tone utterly desperate. No, please, don't ignore me. My patience ran out. I stomped down hard on his foot with my heel. Because of the pregnancy, I was wearing 1-inch block heels, not stilettos. But I put all my strength into it, and he still flinched in pain, his grip loosening slightly. I seized the opportunity and bit his wrist until it bled. Finally, the pain forced him to let go. I glared at him coldly. If you ever bother me again, don't blame me for what happens next. His eyes were filled with a profound sadness as he looked at me, pained and desperate. Rhea, can't you really give me one more chance? My response was cold and final. No. Despite my absolute refusal, Landon wouldn't give up. Apology texts came one after another. Piles of jewelry were sent over. Baby supplies arrived in uncountable numbers. He hired a drone team to perform a light show to declare his love for me. He started showing up at my doorstep in the middle of the night, waiting for hours. Honestly, I was getting tired of his antics. I thought long and hard. To make him give up for good, I had to use drastic measures. That day, I stood before him. He nervously extinguished his cigarette, his tone almost pleading. Rhea, did you need to see me? I cut straight to the chase. Landon, if you harass me again, I will get an abortion. He looked as if he'd been struck by lightning, his pupils trembling. Don't. I continued, if you insist on pestering me, then this is the only way I can sever our last tie. Even if it means I can never be a mother, I will go through with it. I mean what I say. All the color drained from his face, his lips trembling. Rhea, why are you so cruel to me? Why won't you give me a single chance? I'll change everything you don't like. I can give you anything you want. Is that still not enough to make you look at me again? For the first time in his life, he was humbled to the dust. But I was unmoved. When love is gone, it's gone. Even if you gave me the whole world, I wouldn't want it. If you show up again tomorrow, the day after that I'll be on an operating table. He looked down, his expression desolate, as if his soul had been hollowed out. Finally, he managed a tragic smile as tears rolled down his cheeks. I understand. After that day, I never saw Landon again. As time went on, my relationship with Caleb grew more and more stable. He was just so good to me. He always put me first, no matter what. When I went through a phase of having no appetite, he went to great lengths to learn new recipes just to get me to eat a few more bites. If I mentioned I missed him, he would immediately book a flight back to see me, even if he was on a business trip overseas. He was there for every single one of my prenatal appointments. I went from having strong feelings for him to falling in love, and it felt completely natural. When I first told Caleb I loved him, he was stunned for a long moment before he finally processed it, saying excitedly, Rhea, thank you for loving me. I found it amusing. Why do you always thank me? When I married him, he thanked me. When I fell in love with him, he thanked me. He just smiled sheepishly. Because you're the best gift heaven ever gave me. My heart warmed. I looked up and kissed him on the lips. Instantly, a blush spread from his cheeks to the back of his neck. It was hard to imagine that a man who had been pursued by girls his whole life could be so innocent. I decided to tease him and kissed him again. This time, he adapted quickly, returning my kiss with gentle passion. The atmosphere was growing intimate. Suddenly, the bedroom door was pushed open. Rhea, Caleb, I washed some cherries for you. Caleb's mom's voice rang out without warning. Caleb and I quickly pulled apart. His mom shot him a reproachful look and pulled him aside to lecture him. Rhea is still pregnant. You need to control yourself. Don't do anything you shouldn't, and definitely don't hurt the baby. Caleb's face turned red again. He glanced shyly at me and then said to his mom, Mom, please stop. I get it. Seeing Caleb's flustered state made me want to laugh. 4 months later, our daughter was born. For nearly 2 months, Caleb worked from home, revolving his entire world around our daughter and me. He was surprisingly good at taking care of a newborn. Even the maternity nurse remarked, there aren't many good men like Mr. Caleb left. I smiled and nodded. Yes, I'm very lucky. Our daughter grew up, year by year. On every birthday, an anonymous person would send her an exquisite gift. When she asked me who it was, I thought for a moment and told her, it's a distant cousin of Mommy's. Over the years, Landon kept his promise and never disturbed me or our daughter. Thankfully, he was a man of his word, allowing our family of 3 to live in peace. After buying the strawberry cream cake my daughter wanted, I took her hand and walked out of the shop. Outside, Caleb stood on the steps, one hand in his pocket. Our daughter skipped over to him. "Daddy." Caleb opened his arms, bent down, and swept her up into a hug. Watching the happy father and daughter, I couldn't help but smile. This was the life I had always dreamed of.